I'm Andrew Hamilton, and I work in the National Manufacturing Institute's Digital Metrology team. In this webinar, I'll be describing some of the cybersecurity challenges facing the manufacturing community, and I'll be passing over to one of our industrial partners, Makarand Karanjalkar, CEO and founder of Sprytech Limited, a company specializing in enterprise cybersecurity. I'll then outline the steps that NMIS is taking to support the manufacturing community in keeping the business secure while transitioning to Industry 4.0. Just some housekeeping slides for the online world. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel. Your microphones and webcams will be turned off during the session to avoid interference. You can type your questions throughout the session via the chat tool, and we will try to address those at the end. Time will be allocated at the end for speakers to answer your questions. Feel free to use the hashtag NMIS Insights for any questions on Twitter at NMIS Group. And please take some time at the end of the presentation to complete a survey to provide us feedback. First of all, before we start the session, it might be good to answer, what is the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland? The National Manufacturing Institute Scotland is a group of industry-led manufacturing research and development facilities where research, industry and the public sector work together to transform skills, productivity and innovation to attract investment and make Scotland a global leader in advanced manufacturing. NMIS will work with all manufacturing businesses in Scotland across every sector to help reduce barriers to innovation, catalyse job creation, stimulate investment, and increase manufacturing competitiveness. I move on the slide there, apologies. NMIS is operated by the University of Strathclyde and will be based at a new world-class facility that has broken ground in Renfrewshire. We're supported by the Scottish Government, Scottish Enterprise, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, the High Value Manufacturing Catapult, Skills Development Scotland, Renfrewshire Council, and finally the Scottish Funding Council. The NMIS group consists of two specialist centres, the Advanced Forming Research Centre and the Lightweight Manufacturing Centre, which are both currently operational. The Digital Factory, which the digital team that I work in is currently, which the digital team is currently developing, the Collaboration Hub and the Manufacturing Skills Academy will be opening in 2022. And finally, we're developing our NMIS network and temporary workshop spaces to support Scotland's manufacturing community. Okay. And now let's get into the core topic of our talk today. Whilst the manufacturing sector has been dealing with the enormous impact of the global pandemic, it's also been dealing with another crisis, the growing impact of cyber attacks on their businesses. In the past decade, the instance of cyber attacks on manufacturing has increased exponentially, with billions in lost revenue and the loss of strategic intellectual property. Attacks have expanded from targeting office infrastructure, such as desktop PCs and other common IT equipment, to sophisticated breaches into production infrastructure that is often considered immune. The situation is concerning for manufacturers, as many businesses have adopted or are in the process of adopting digital roadmaps aimed at increasing connectivity within the supply chains. There's strong motivation to improve connectivity within manufacturing, with benefits including real-time data-driven support and greater operational efficiency through intelligent asset scheduling. The main risk is connecting previously isolated or non-network facing devices to internal or external communication networks like the internet, creating new threat vectors in the process. Manufacturing has traditionally been a siloed data environment with the bespoke machines maintaining their own data repositories, disconnected from the rest of the factory and supply chain. The main method of interaction is normally human-machine interfaces, or HMIs, that create safe cyber-physical bubbles within the factory floor. When machines are connected, it is often to OEM systems or vendor-specific applications that have their own cybersecurity protocols in place, relieving the operator of the requirement to manage the risks associated with breaches. Any network security concerns is often the responsibility of organizations' IT departments or equivalent. This is often the best course of action, as these persons often have the best understanding of the risks associated and developing mitigation strategies. However, with increasing connectivity, newly network-facing equipment and machinery is most familiar to operational staff. They can often be the best people to determine if a breach has occurred by identifying anomalous activity, and so they must also improve their understanding of cyber defense to help secure the entire organization. This understanding of cyber situational awareness will be critical in preventing or mitigating attacks. By improving understanding of the current manufacturing cyber physical infrastructure, you can begin to effectively plan for your future digital transformation. As mentioned, this understanding is often referred to as cyber situational awareness and is applicable at all levels of ISO 95 which is commonly used by manufacturers when developing or implementing the digital factory. Whilst ISO 95 is mainly used to create a common framework for manufacturing activities, it can also serve as a template when planning for cyber defense by understanding the communication paths between physical devices and layers. Improving cyber situational awareness in manufacturing relies upon providing sufficient resources that are appropriate for the given application. The one resource that cuts across all sectors, regardless of size or composition, is knowledge and understanding. Many staff operate equipment daily that will not be considered as vulnerable for a variety of reasons. If we consider an industrial process such as a press or a resin transfer molding tool with a human-machine interface that connects to a programmable logic controller that in turn connects to sensors and actuators, this system would often be considered safe. The system is not network enabled, so no outside attacks can gain access. The machine was installed by a third-party supplier who's responsible for the servicing and probably the onboard security of the device. The system is also operated by select internal staff who are trained and qualified in its usage. However, this machine may still be vulnerable. For example, malicious software brought in accidentally when the OEM sends a personal team for servicing that requires a laptop to be connected for system checks. After the servicing, the internal machine operator then connects a USB drive to retrieve operational data, which will then likely be connected to a network-enabled system. While such a scenario seems implausible when considering simple phishing attacks or other common cybersecurity threats, if we consider that the attack is being conducted by a well-organized state actor with sufficient domain knowledge of that factory's processes, the scenario quickly gains credibility. Many thousands of legacy machines in manufacturing use operating systems that are now decades out of date and no longer supported, so being aware of the weaknesses within your enterprise is essential. Enterprises may consider creating assessments of cyber situational awareness by first cataloging cyber physical systems and environments. This can include collating all the communication protocols used at different ISO 95 layers, such as Modbus or Profinet, determining what machines are network enabled or will be, and the physical server these will be connected to, determining what security systems are already present, including third-party systems, and if they're still robust. This process will not be easy, but it's essential to begin to map your cyber physical infrastructure so threat mitigation can be planned, and the risks are not only to your own enterprise. Due to highly connected supply chains within manufacturing processes, enterprises are increasingly required to access each other's cyber physical infrastructure, commonly for data to support scheduling of resources, if we consider just-in-time arrival of components and parts. Large enterprises may have a significant factory footprint from another company, necessitating permanent external access to the enterprise network for applications like remote condition monitoring and fault diagnosis. This has led to state actors and other groups to probe for weaknesses along the entire supply chain to find a point of entry, what will allow them to then reach the desired target organization. Highly complex products such as aircraft, ships, or vehicles can have hundreds of individual enterprises integrated into the supply chain to varying degrees. Lack cybersecurity of one company may not have an impact on your own operations, but can affect dozens of others, disrupting the supply chain and losing intellectual property. Securing the supply chain and securing your own facilities against cyber attacks therefore may not be motivated out of protecting your own IP, but it may be motivated by protecting others. Planning your cybersecurity strategy will depend on first understanding your existing network. It's likely that there may be a separation of your office space and factory floor networks with few or even one access point between. This is beneficial for deploying intrusion detection systems that can monitor a particular comms channel or machine for anomalous network traffic. This anomalous behavior is often correlated to the presence of malicious software that can be generating process disruptive data packets or recording sensitive data, or even to establish external communications. Connections between office and factory floors should be firewalled and only have a bare minimum of access to allow for effective operation and the mitigation of internal network issues. This approach may be continued with intrusion detection systems deployed at interfaces between ISO 95 layers, with each system specifically trained for that application. Training detection systems may involve allowing cybersecurity experts to access your systems and attempt penetrative breaches to determine what anomalous behavior looks like. There's a wide range of communication protocols used within manufacturing, and so beginning to develop a threat database internally for your own enterprise with associated data sets that can go with more threat testing will help defend your existing network and plan for future expansion. A major threat to any enterprise are zero-day attacks or zero-day exploits, where a previously unknown weakness within a cyber-physical system is targeted. As the weakness is unknown, preventing such an attack is often untenable, potentially leading to a significant impact on your enterprise. To address this issue, manufacturing will need to start horizon scanning to determine what threats might come in the future. This can be achieved by working with industrial experts and research groups to understand what is the expected nature of these attacks. For example, if there's been a spate of successful attacks upon embedded controllers within a particular comms protocol, what are the controls in your environment and operate in a similar manner, and what would the impact be of these controllers being targeted? It may then be possible to reconfigure your network to focus analysis on these assets and mitigate a potential attack. Engagement with cyber defence organisations such as the UK's National Cyber Security Centre is critical, as these bodies deal with threats from all sources, including the ever-increasing threat from state actors aiming to disrupt national manufacturing or access IP. Every day, 5G is in the news as the next great leap for mobile communications. Whilst hosting a private 5G network to support your enterprise may be inappropriate at this stage, understanding how future communications may be implemented in your factory and larger supply chain is essential, so that when the time comes to modify your architecture, you're informed and prepared and can meet the challenges that these systems will already be facing. Manufacturing needs to improve understanding of cyber security between supply chain partners. It's no longer sufficient to focus on your own organization as we transition further into Industry 4.0 and deepen supply chains. Whilst many companies may be reluctant, sharing of obfuscated cyber infrastructure can allow researchers to test for weaknesses and develop new strategies. It will also be necessary to expand the cyber situational awareness of more employees, with larger enterprises possibly requiring a centralized security operations center to provide complete oversight of the cyber physical infrastructure and real-time threat mitigation. Lastly, understanding what may be coming next by engaging with national security centers and cybersecurity networks to start being more proactive in creating threat mitigation strategies in the event of future zero-day attacks. I will now pass over to one of NMIS's partners, Makarand Karanjalkar, CEO and founder of Sprytech Limited, and an expert in cybersecurity and blockchain technology, who will be providing his insights into cybersecurity for manufacturing.
Hi, thanks, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to briefly explain how to start on the path of cybersecurity for interconnected manufacturing industry. The interconnected nature of fourth industrial revolution-driven operations and pace of the digital transformation mean cyber attack can have far more extensive effect than before. Manufacturers and their supply network may not be prepared for this. Because of that, it is important to have a fully developed strategy. What is the strategy which we can implement for the manufacturing industry? So the path to the cyber sector, just the previous slide, Andrew, please. Okay. So the path to the Industry 4.0 goes through the cyber security. And to adequately address those cyber risks, the cyber security strategies should be secure, vigilant, and resilient. So these are the important things at a very broad level for all the organization to keep in mind, although they may be a small organization, medium, or even larger organization. And those should be fully integrated into the organizational and IT strategy from the start. Next, please. So here we'll briefly analyze the smart production life cycle of manufacturing industry and the cyber risk and involved in different phases of that production life cycle. So here we have digital supply network, smart factory, and connected object. Due to the digitalization, many connected objects are coming into the picture, and that is what increasing the risk and threat to the manufacturing industry. We'll take this individually, three different stages of the production life cycle. Next slide, please. So this is the digital supply network. So this is the important that we manage the supply network. Supply chain is evolving and increasing. Because of that, the cyber risks are also evolving. Cyber risk of sharing data across the digital supply network is the important threat in the manufacturing industry. More and more third parties are coming into the picture. Supply chain is increasing. More and more data is accessed by many stakeholders, and it is important to that the processing and third party so that we can implement the security across the whole manufacturing industry. Next, please. The other thing is then smart factory. So what we have in the smart factory, we have various legacy manufacturing processes and operational processes, and then the other side we have the digitalization. So more and more connected production is creating new cyber challenges because of that. Manufacturing industries utilizing more and more commercial off-the-shelf products, which are the electronic and digital products. Because of that, the potential impact of cyber attack on production, manufacturing, and customers is increasing. So it is not only on the products of the manufacturing industry, but it is across the supply chain. So the information technology and then operational technology. So these are the two things in the manufacturing industry. So those are getting combined. So those are getting converged. And to implement the security across the industry, we need to manage those things. So what are those things? Next, please. So these are what different objectives or aims. The manufacturing looks for health and safety, production, process and resilience, instrumentation and proactive problem resolution. At the same time, the operational values manufacturing industry looks into is system operability, reliability, integrity, efficiency, and the cost avoidance, due diligence. But at the base of both of these is the threat landscape, which is coming from across the industry. We have the distributed system where more and more digitalization, more and more the connected objects are happening, and so those are posing the threat to both of these. Next, please. Then the third stage is semi-connected object. We are building cyber, so we need to build the cyber security in design itself to manage those connected objects. The connected object means you have machines, you have sensors attached to that, and then if there are any the loose connectivity or loose gaps into those connected objects, then the attackers may take advantage of that, and then that creates the risk for the organization. So in the design itself, those products should be hardened enough so that those will remain secure when those are used in the manufacturing industry, the supply chain. So the other thing is important to carry out the traditional vulnerability management, which will help here to identify where are the vulnerability. Although we take the care from the design of the products, each environment is different, and it is difficult to understand that there are still the vulnerability. So vulnerability management is important, and that gives the idea where are the vulnerability, and accordingly it can be protected. From some of the devices, there is a possibility that the data can get leaked. Protecting data from connected devices is important, and integrated approach is needed to protect all of these devices. Devices are of different types, they carry the different data, use the different network. So it is very important to carry out the integrated approach, because not a single approach is possible across all the types of devices. So another important thing here is security. So again, as the device, the number of devices are increasing across the supply chain, third parties are increasing. So it is not to manage the threat detection manual. Every day new and new threats are coming up. So Normally, artificial intelligence is utilized for threat detection, and if you use any of such products, those makes you more secure, more resilient, being resilient. So that is what is more important. So the first step is secure, and then be the resilient one. Next, please. So we have seen the production life three stages. Here, more focus I want to give is on the path to the cybersecurity. And the biggest question arises for SMEs, enterprises, is where to start. So here, a simple approach. So there are various approaches. There are various ways we can implement that. It depends on the organization, but it depends mainly on what are their assets. So the first step is to identify what are their assets, then go ahead with protecting those assets, then detecting any incidents, then responding to those and recover from that. This what means resilient, as I have described in the previous slide, being secure, vigilant, and resilient. So this is what a simple 5-step approach, which may help the organization to carry out their security. A simple cybersecurity essential scheme is provided by government, which will help the organization to guard against the most common cyber threats. So these are what the 5 technical controls. So those will secure the organization on various levels, such as say firewall, to secure the internet connection, secure configuration. So manufacturing industry will use the various devices, interconnected devices. As I said, there are many COTS kind of devices, commercial off-the-shelf devices, and those comes with the default configuration, default passwords, and those need to be hardened or tightened so that it becomes a secure configuration when you implement those in your industry. User access control, as we have seen that the supply chain and the broader network of participants, stakeholders is increasing. So user access control is important to implement to give the control to those people only who need that. Then malware protection, protecting the organization and the devices from viruses and their malware. The patch management, with devices coming up with the softwares, and there are regular updates on that, and we need to keep those updated. So patch management itself is another area. If you don't keep that, it creates vulnerability. So these are simple 5 steps and 5 technical controls, which will protect the organization from common cyber threats up to 80% or more. But what about the other threats and other risks? So depending on the organization, we can look into those things. Next, please. So this is what, as per the IS 95 standard, the different levels of the organization and the kind of the digital equipment utilized within that. So when the organization has such a complex level of usage in their digitalization, then only the previous one, Cyber Essential, may not help, and the organization need to look into the bigger IT security frameworks, such as ISO 27000 series. Then we have the NIST. NIST is from USA mainly, so it provides a different framework. And then we have a CIS controls, again some security controls. Then we have so these are again big frameworks which will give the cybersecurity framework for the whole organization end to end, including the third parties, various suppliers, connected devices. But then you need to have a special team to manage and implement this kind of security framework. There are certifications also. So we have a Cyber Essential, which is a very easy certification. And then we have the ISO and NIST, those kind of certification. So those helps to the organization to provide the greater confidence within them and to keep secure their manufacturing process and production and products. Next, please. So now framework and standards, we have seen some kind of controls, but we need various security tools also. So information technology and operational technology, so these are what two different things getting converged into the manufacturing industry, and that's why they need to look into the whole with very holistic approach. And these are what different things. So we have security, and then we have operational technology and tools which are required on a regular basis. So okay, once we do it and then it's over, but then we need to continue it. Now all this again depends on what kind of data, what kind of assets we have, and want to protect. Based on that, then security testing can be carried, vulnerability testing is there, penetration testing is there. Then operational technologies will give you different kind of tools, like for the threat detection, we have tripwire for threat detection. And then we have for network scanning, which need to be scanned on a regular basis. Then we have endpoint protection, so cloud-based as well as the host-based, which will keep secure your devices. It's like antivirus or anti-malware kind of things. So based on the different devices, we'll have those things. And these are what different tools, and this list is not full, but this what need to be implemented to carry out the security implementation within the organization. Next, please. That's it. Thank you. And we provide those kind of help and services, consultancy, certification services for various organizations. At the same time, we help in carrying out the operations and incident management for various organizations. If you have any questions, you can ask it now, or I will pass on my contact details in the chat box. You can contact me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mac, and thank you, Andrew, for these very informative presentations.
Laura, there's a couple more slides actually.
Have you got a few more? Right, no problem. I was thinking that finished quite quickly.
First of all, thank you, Mac, for that very informative presentation. And I'll now just so it is understandable that some manufacturers are reluctant to embrace digital transformation at all, given the risk of exposing their infrastructure, and especially if their current setup is functional. Individual manufacturers will have to weigh these risks against the danger of competitors successfully adopting digital technologies into their infrastructure and leveraging greater value from their data, such as intelligent asset scheduling and improved just-in-time arrival. It will also be important to consider how flexible your supply chain is, considering the effect of global events such as the pandemic. To address this dilemma, the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland has committed to developing a digital factory to be based within the new site in Renfrewshire. The first stage of this factory is the Resource Efficient Supply and Manufacture Environment, or RESME. This will be the core infrastructure needed to support any digital factory, and will be implementing security features at all ISO 95 levels and within each level 2. The RESME testbed will be flexible to allow our partners and the wider manufacturing community to test their current infrastructure so they can identify both security weaknesses and also resource inefficiencies. It will then allow them to plan for future changes to their infrastructure based on the planned digital roadmap, reducing both costs and risks. In essence, RESME is going to be a sandbox environment covering all ISO 95 layers, and also being flexible enough to allow new digital models such as improvements upon ISO 95. RESME will underpin the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland's vision for future manufacturing, including zero capital factories where free capacity and production can be leased to external companies, allowing flexibility when external forces affect the supply chain. This in turn will create more agile manufacturing environments that will be necessary over the next decade to ensure that Scotland and the UK remain competitive and advance amongst our national peers. Resume will also be used to support our vision of reduced carbon footprints in line with governmental commitments by allowing more efficient production models to be developed and assessed. Security will underpin all of these activities, and we encourage members of the manufacturing community, research groups, academia, government organisations and other bodies to get in touch so we can support your goals in securing our future supply chains. I would like to thank you all for your time today. Myself and Makarand are happy to field any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Andrew. I believe Thomas will have a question for you. Thomas, would you like to turn on your mic just now? I'll turn it on for you.
Thank you. Thanks very much for a really enlightening and entertaining presentation from both of our speakers today. I guess the question I wanted to just come back to related to a sort of statement that Andrew made, fairly early on in which was about the scale of the risk, Andrew. I mean, you said that cyber attacks had exponentially increased, but I just wondered what evidence you had for that. And when you say exponentially increased, do you mean it's increased from 1 to 2, or do you mean it's increased from 300 a year to 18,000, or I mean, and the monetary value would be useful to feel for that. The other one is that I think that there's a big difference, and Mac and I would be interested in your thoughts on this, of the difference between somebody bringing in effectively an infected device during a service interval and potentially infecting a machine that is PLC kind of based, than actually a business information system being somehow hijacked or corrupted in some way. I think that the concept of something spreading, with an interconnected system. I mean, we put a lot of emphasis on our business information systems, and a lot of the risk management is done through the service and support contracts with the likes of Oracle and Microsoft and these other things. So just your comments on that would be very much appreciated.
Right, Thomas, thanks for the question. I'll try to field the first part and I'll pass over to Mac for your second question. So the statement about it being exponential increasing, that's over the past decade. I believe in 2018, around 45% of manufacturers in the UK reported that they had suffered some form of cyber attack. That includes both on their office IT equipment or on their factory floor infrastructure. In the past, during the COVID-19 lockdown, I believe it's not been published yet, but I believe that number has now increased to around about 60%, as a lot of state actors have tried to take advantage of the reduced capacity of manufacturing environments and the fact that we may not be quite as aware of our cyber physical systems due to having to be working from home and other restrictions on the manufacturing environment. The billions of lost revenue has been estimated from that's a global figure, and that's been estimated from I believe there's reports in 2019 on the cumulative amounts that's been attributed to both phishing attacks and lost downtime of manufacturing equipment due to cyber attacks. So that's a figure that's meant to be incorporating all aspects of cyber attacks on infrastructure, not just including like office-based equipment, but also on when they've had to stop production and consequently the lost revenue on the enterprises. Mac, would you like to address Thomas' second part of the question?
Yes. Okay. I understand the question is about, say, what if other people brings in the infected devices and creates the security threat to the organization. Is that correct?
I guess your comments would be appreciated, or your thoughts would be appreciated in the difference between a standalone machine which may independently be affected or infected, as opposed to something which is inherently within the backbone of our businesses, running all the time on some cloud-based or networked platform.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, for this, as I described the states, so those are what's important. So if we know that this kind of situation or the kind of the way of working is what there in the organization, or want to implement a new way of working within the organization, then we need to plan for that. So plan for that and then create the process for that. For example, if someone is bringing from outside, okay, so what should be the process? What should be the security process? So we should ask them to do the checking of that device. No, we should have those kind of relevant tools. And once it's passed through that, then only they will be allowed to connect that. What is happening here? And so actually security is not sitting at the front door of the organization. This is what the problem here. And for that, as I mentioned, the three stages. So being secure, vigilant, and resilient. So probably organizations are taking the first step only to be secure, but then to be vigilant. So this is a part of that. So continuously monitor the system, network, devices, so not only the existing one, but definitely the one which are coming from the outside. So for that, if we implement that process, and then whenever the device or whenever even external person want to access our network, so those should go through the security. When security says okay, then they will be allowed to do that. That is not happening. So even security doesn't know who has connected to what kind of network, was that secure, not secure, and then only the things comes up when some problem happened there. So it is about creating the whole process within the organization, and that's what I mentioned, the framework. Now, if you take the ISO 27000 framework, so it describes all such things and asks the organization to create the policies, the process for such things which are required within that organization. That is one thing. The second one then I would like to emphasize here is we do any organization be 100% secure, because more and more new ways of working are coming up, new ways are coming up. So the most important next to be secure and vigilant is to be resilient. How the organization will respond and recover from those kind of situations. That will be measured when such things will happen, and that will help those organizations. So mainly the defense in depth. So this is what called within the cybersecurity is defense in depth. Not any single control is sufficient, but you need to apply the multiple controls. For example, say all these kind of controls, and still if it happens, we in the monitoring system which will identify it quickly, and then then we have the what to say responding to that and recovering from that attack quickly. Okay, so in that way, then we have our defense in depth in place. So I feel, of course, the manufacturing organizations, as I explained, so they have their focus within the manufacturing and managing their objectives for that. And when they implement the digital technology, still they focus more on their objective. But then for the security, they need to have their focus and emphasis in the way that probably I mentioned in brief.
Okay, thank you, Mac. Does anybody else have any other questions? We can turn on your mic if you want to let us know. Got any questions today?
Hi, Salahiga Sami. May I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Well, I was know that actually Mac mentioned the implementing the cybersecurity in our design. But what happens that through the years and basically development in the cyber attack, how we adopt to potential cyber attacks. When time passes, new devices, new softwares, new hardwares, how we can make sure that our cyber security system, is it still good enough to mitigate those cases?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I got that point. So I'm just saying briefly say this is a continuous process. Keeping the organization secure and maintaining the security is a continuous process. Here, probably you may not understand what needs to be done, but then if there are some security people or team within your organization, then they definitely know how to assess the impact of, for example, the new technology coming in, or new devices which are coming in, or new vulnerabilities which are found in the market within the industry. So how to deal with that? So there are what to say, the ways and the process within the cybersecurity handle those things. So of course, this is a continuous process. The upgrades within the devices, within the technology will happen continuously, and that's why the security also need to be evolved continuously. So monitoring is there. Now, as I said, so implement the tools, various tools. Within the threat intelligence, say monitoring, and that will give you the idea what are the vulnerabilities within the current organization and what the new devices or new software will make that impact. So then the impact analysis. So these are the things. So when you're implementing or sorting a new, let's say, technology or device or change in your organization. And this need to be done together. So with the technical manufacturing team and then the cybersecurity team. So cybersecurity need to be involved in each and every process of the organization, and their guidance need to be taken. This is what the way here.
Just to add on to. So just to add on to Mac's answer, the National Manufacturing Institute, Scotland, also trying to make our sandbox environment as flexible as possible. So the idea is that if you're wanting to adopt a new communications protocol, a new architecture within your factory or your manufacturing process, you'll be able to come and replicate that within our infrastructure, so you can test and identify threats before you have to implement it in your own. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I think Nigel's got a question next. Nigel, I'll just turn on your mic.
Yeah, it's looking at the automation of this monitoring and protecting. How far away are we from an AI solution which can do this in real time without the constant intervention of humans?
I will say it is already much more AI involvement is there in monitoring and protecting in real time. Yeah, but those things are improving. But many more tools are there. They are utilizing the database from across the industry. For example, if you take some tools and they will connect with the global database. For example, if there is some threat today or some attack happen today within the world, then that will get registered into a common database, and then that tool will be connected to that common database. So from there, it will get what I can say, the intelligence. So the threat happening within this organization, how is that? And it in real time, because it got that intelligence from the global database about the threat happened elsewhere. For example, if you take simple, say, okay, everyone use the Microsoft operating system. So if there are some vulnerabilities, there will be, but then the point is, say, okay, if someone try to attack or try to explore those vulnerabilities and make an attack. Once that is clear, then that threat is there for many of the people. So So such kind of tools are there, but again, it depends. Like as we have seen the various levels within the manufacturing organization. So those different levels. So those are more or less at this moment on the network level available. But then, if you consider say on sensor level, I will say may not be, because the sensors are various sensors, IoT devices. Those are specific to that organization and cannot be generalized with the rest of the world.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. May I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, please.
There's the one thing we haven't really talked about is the human element in all of this. It's all very well having systems and processes in place, but we need to ensure that staff understand and apply all the time the systems and processes that we set up. I'm not aware of training programs for staff specifically on cyber security, and I wondered if you could point me in the direction of where that sort of support might exist.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so people and technology. Yes, these are what three things, and we didn't talk on the people point. First, the way here we are talking is, okay, what should be the way ahead or how to do that? I will say the most important for any organization is to first of all identify their assets. What are their assets? What are their data? What are their critical, regulatory requirements? And then it will come down and say, okay, how do we achieve that? Okay, and then we need to bring in the people element. Okay, now people element is say, okay, who will be those people? Will those be people from that organization? Will those be the third party? Then that is what again come to the strategy. IT and OT strategy, as I say, that needs to be involved. In that strategy, we need to it should be fully integrated into organizational IT strategy from the start. So this is what is required, and there we can make the people element. So where we want to do that. Maybe sometimes it may happen in various organizations. They get one security expert there, but then the rest of the team, that security expert coordinate with the third parties which provides such services. Otherwise, they whole outsource that kind of thing. Otherwise, they build their team slowly within their organization, mainly the IT and network team. So that is what already have some kind of knowledge there, and those people need to be trained so that they can progress to the next stage of security. So yeah, that is needed. People process the frameworks. For example, ISO gives a very good framework on the process. Of course, then we have a technology, and then on the people front, organization need to take their call on that.
Great, thank you for answering that. We've got a very own member of the NMIS IT team here, Jim Adamson, who's just added something. Jim, do you want to say anything?
Hello.
Hi, Jim. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, just point out there, yeah, that the idea of the human element is very important. All staff at AFRC NMIS have to do a very basic introduction to cybersecurity course. And it's mandatory, and it's actually mandatory across the university, and every month we get figures for how many people have completed the course, and it's up to IT to chase people up to say you must do this course. It has been suggested that what we do is, if you haven't completed the course, you lose your access to the university network. Now that's a bit controversial at the moment. So what people are saying is you must do, for example, the cybersecurity course, you must do an intellectual property course, and you must do the quality management course before we give you your username and password. So that's one thing we're looking at. Another thing I would like to ask is, at the AFRC, we have a big workshop and we've got lots of labs. We've got equipment from vendors like DMG, Nori, Matsura, Shula, Leica. Now, all their equipment comes with a PC or an embedded system. Now, some of that's using Linux, which we don't know which version. Some of it's using Windows, maybe Windows 7, sometimes even based on XP. Now, managing that's quite difficult because it's not really our equipment. So how would you sort of suggest we work on that for security?
Hi, Jim. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Shall I go ahead with that?
Yeah, you can. I'll follow up with something.
Okay. Okay. There are various ways, as I explained about, obviously, building the team and all that. But one more thing important I want to say here is all the organization need to build the security assessment of each of their projects, and that should be built in their program management. So each project should be security assessed security. Then that can be assessed by the internal team or external team, because this assessment is very important for the security. Security assessment is the very first step which tells everyone what's the state, what's the current state of the organization or whatever the limited project scope we have, and then that helps to take the decisions what needs to be done for that, and that again can be done based on the type of risk. So risk-based approach can be taken by the organization. So even I suggested to AFRC, so to the program management people, that you should build the security assessment of project. And as I explained before, say, no, that helps to the organization whenever the new process and whenever the new, say, new tools are coming, new technology is coming, and no, so that will get assessed for the security. So security will assess, team will assess for the security of that, impact on the current, what are the risks involved into that, and what's the risk-based approach need to be taken by organization to mitigate those risks. This is what I haven't seen in many of the SMEs or other than the IT organizations. This is what need to be done, and that gives what you can say the critical inputs to the next stage.
Yes, I quite like the sound of that. So if we're working on a project or a task, we have to do a health and safety risk assessment. So you seem to be suggesting that we do a cyber security risk assessment on each piece of equipment, maybe during the installation phase, and then we can sort of build on that.
Yeah, that you can build on, but for that, the premise is that, okay, your organization has already done the security assessment for the whole organization, and you know the security posture of your organization. If you don't know that, okay, so that is what the first step then. Okay, so identify, then assess. Okay, if you have seen that the wheel, okay, so identify what are the critical data system, okay, connectivity, okay, and then the second stage is then to do that assessment, and that gives the very critical input to various things. Okay, we need probably say to increase the people awareness, very simple things. For example, phishing kind of attacks, or what you can say, the social engineering. The attacks happen because of the social engineering. Those are the most within the organization, and those are the most common within organization. And those can be avoided with very simple techniques. So,
okay, thanks for that.
Jim, just to follow on to Mark's answer, one of the sort of practical projects as part of the resume test bed, we're looking to install network taps on various infrastructure throughout the AFRC and the LNC, and start to generate communication databases to get a sort of baseline of what typical operations will look like by not looking at the data itself, but just the sort of frequency of certain data passes, and then trying to then eventually start to simulate attacks on those to then look at to build up a comparison database of what our anomalous behavior look like, and that will be then used to train intrusion detection systems that might be based on small PLCs or other embedded devices on network types.
Good. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Sort of thing we need. We're using a 40-gate firewall and 40 analyzer that monitors, hits and people trying. But your system sounds more advanced and more geared towards the sort of Industry 4 workshop side of things, which is great.
It's meant to integrate into the existing system, so that's the idea. It's meant to be entirely complementary. The idea is that this can maybe be a solution for, as you said, when you have an enterprise that has Linux systems, embedded systems, Windows machines. How do you manage all those? And it's challenging. So we're hopefully trying to augment the existing security infrastructure that most enterprises will have. We're trying to deepen that with some more specific details on the communications protocols within manufacturing cells.
Excellent. Keep in touch. Thanks.
Audit.
Cheers.
Right, I think we've just about run out of time, but you'll see in the chat box and also on the slide at the moment our contact details. So please do feel free to get in touch with the NMIS team, nms-inquiries@strat.ac.uk, and also you'll see Mac has very kindly left his details in the chat box as well, and the Sprytech web address. So we hope that you all found this session informative today, and thank you very much to our speakers today, Mac and Andrew. It was really informative, and we'll be uploading a recording of today's webinar later today, so please do feel free to share that link with any of your connections or anyone who would like to find out more about cybersecurity. And that's really it. I'll be ending the session shortly. If you have any other comments, leave them in the
Thank you.
box. Thank you. Thanks
Cheers.
Thanks for interesting questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mac.
Bye. All right, I think that's us just about down to 4. So I will send out a survey after this, and I'll keep you guys updated on the feedback we get. Okay.
Sounds good.
Great.
Is that everything then? Is it okay to end the session now yet?
Yeah, I'll end the session. So thanks so much again, and I think there was some good discussion there at the end.
Yeah, it's good. So thanks so much for organising it and keeping all the questions in line and everything. I think actually the session went quite well, so it's nice.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you halfway through.
I think you guys did perfectly.
Oh, hi, Sam.
Okay, Sam.
Yeah,
Hi,
hello.
Sam.
Hello. Sorry. Cheers for taking over, Andrew, and thank you, Laura.
No problem
Thank
at
you,
all.
Laura, for taking over. Sorry, I just thank both of you. Thank you equally.
No problem at all. Can I work in
went
business
really well.
development now, Sam?
There we go. You always have been. You perform every role and function in the centre. So I don't know if you've noticed,
I am
Andy.
the fraud.
Andy,
of the
if you've noticed, Laura's on every photo that we have for everything. In anything. There we go. Look at that. That's a guilty as charged face, I think.
No, I knew Laura before because she politely pointed out that she's on all the LMC posters. Because that was my first main place to go, and I was like, oh yeah, that's Laura.
There you go.
Oh dear, they really were short of models that day. Very short.
There you go.
It's always good to be the face of the organisation. It's always good to be the face of the organisation.
That's it. That's it. All right, Sam. I hope everything goes okay today, and
yeah, hope everything's okay, Sam, as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Cheers, guys, and thank you very much. And yeah, I suppose the same. Have very nice days, etc. Andrew, quick question. Sorry, Laura, it's just because I've got Andrew on the line as we're here. We've got a meeting this afternoon with who'd you call it?
Oh, with NVIDIA.
Yeah, I can't recall whether I was called into that meeting or whether I meant to be there for any particular reason or not.
I believe you were called in because just to have one meeting, but then you had a separate conversation with Clemens from NVIDIA, and that you're going to set something up more business sides between yourselves. So the meeting today, you feel free to attend, but the focus will be on the Mellanox network security. The reason I copied you because I thought that might be a nice way for you to be introduced. But then I think on the email chain that you had a conversation anyway, so it's up to yourself if you join. Feel free to join, but if you're
okay.
Understandably, if you've got other things on today, it's not a problem at all. It's really going to be a technical discussion, hopefully, with Mellanox.
In that case, if it's a technical discussion, I'd like to bow out because I'm going to be of no use to you in that. But
I think
thank
you might just come along for the first 5 minutes to introduce yourself to Clemens. But I think you already. I saw in the emails that you're already chatting. So if you're happy enough to chase her up on your own, no problem at all.
Do it independently, and thank you very much. Yeah, there we go. All right, well, cheers. And I thought that went really well, actually. I was, I know Laura had said perhaps we were anticipating that questions might not arise and flow, but they did. I thought so.
Yeah,
that's quite good. Yeah, that's quite nice. Yeah,
it was really, really good to have Jim there as well. So thank you very much, Laura. I can't believe we didn't think of that ourselves.
To be honest, all I was thinking was, oh, how do I drum up the numbers? Who works in IT? And then I was like, oh, Jim, but actually it worked out quite nicely, didn't it? It probably was quite good that you got a chat with yourselves.
The idea is, like, although resume is very quite, it's not even built. It's just going to go to tender in October, but we're meant to be engaging with like people within the IT because it's
there you go.
it's ways we should be, but we tend to go over our own thing. But because it's all about IT infrastructure within AFRC, we do actually need to be involving. So I've had some conversations with Jason Lang as well. So
yeah, he actually tuned in today, although he didn't speak. He was actually there, just so you know.
Oh, that's good. So I had a chat about what I'm wanting to do with some of the projects like the OpenStack and things like that. So that's good he came along.
Yeah, he was definitely there.
Interesting as well that we had Thomas from National Physics Laboratory as well, because we've been in conversation with their MD this week. So I'm going to try.
He's been to a few of our webinars, by the way. He's been to quite a few.
Has he? Right.
Yeah,
okay. Well,
he's like a super fan.
A super fan. Yeah, good. He's got a really interesting background. Actually, I've just been checking him out online. He used to work on submarines. So just interestingly, but I thought, Andrew, for resume, it would be great if we can connect him and have a conversation.
Sounds good. Yeah, that sounds excellent.
Right.
Perfect. So
well, I'll leave you to enjoy
thank you, everybody. Yeah, it's a beautiful day.
I know. Right.
I hope you have a lovely day. See you later. Bye. Thanks.
Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Sam. Bye.